Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today I'm going to be talking about the love versus chip style of communicating. And if you think that you missed something, I made it up, so it's not something you were supposed to have known already in the popular discourse. And I'm proud of it, so I think it's a very helpful paradigm for transforming your relationship communication into something more functional from something less functional. And I'll talk about that as soon as I tell you to subscribe. My most recent subscriber episode was why not to beat yourself up about going outside. I see all these women with chronic pain, depression, etc. be like, oh, I wasted the day. You didn't waste the day. The day happened. You didn't have to go outside if you didn't want to. And I will talk about that and more and 200 other subscriber episodes in my, if you subscribe, $8.99 a month, people tell me it is invaluable. Truly the cheapest way to get a ton of information about yourself, relationships, and mental health. Okay, so I was working on posts about estrangement and adult children and their parents, and this is something that I work with a lot, to the point that I was asked to write a book about it, which I think I'm going to do. But either way, so I've been working on the, posts and videos and stuff more about adult children and parents. And I work with reconciling estranged adult children and parents a lot. And I have people working for me that do this work too. So if you ever need it, reach out to us at Best Life Behavioral Health. But either way, I came up with these acronyms and I realized that they could be used for all relationships. You don't have to be a parent with an adult child. And there's the way that parents with adult children who don't like them or who find it hard to be around them or who are estranged from them tend to communicate, which is the chip style, and you can move that into the love style. So let me start with the chip style. So this is an acronym, CHIP, and it stands for criticizing, helping, instructing, planning. These are the primary ways that parents who have bad relationships with their adult children communicate, and it's actually the primary way that people in marriages that are unhappy also communicate. And I'll talk about each of them. So this is not about any specific type of relationship. This is just stuff that pushes somebody away. Criticizing. Obviously, criticism is wrong. But the criticism, it doesn't only have to be about big things. It's basically a style. The person comes down, a style of interacting. Person comes downstairs, you say, oh, why are you wearing that shirt? That shirt shouldn't be worn. Somebody serves you some meal. You say, oh, this is not salty enough. Your wife says, I want to go to the fair on Sunday. You say the fair is going to be stupid. Your husband says that he is interested in watching the game, and you say, I don't even know why you like watching sports. It's stupid, right? So that is all, those can all be called critical. They erode closeness. Somebody doesn't want to come to you if you're going to criticize what they say. And this happens with adult children all the time. They say every time I reach out to my parent to tell them something, they criticize it. So what the hell am I going to talk to them for? It just ends up making me feel bad, right? Helping. Now you could think, oh, helping, that sounds good, right? No. Helping can be good, but when it is juxtaposed against this backdrop of a cold and critical relationship, or when it's the only way that you interact with somebody, it's not good. It can be infantilizing. It can be putting themselves in the mix. And it can also take away your feeling of pride and independence in what you do. So, for example, you want to bake cookies, let's say, and your parent is like, oh, I'll help, and then they basically do it. right? Or you say, I'm sending my kids to daycare, and your parent says, I'll help. I'll pick them up from daycare every day, because it's better for them that way, And basically you're not allowed to make any independent decisions without their quote help. How does this manifest in marriages? Like all the time with what I call the over-functioner, under-functioner dynamic. So, your husband tries to do the laundry and you say, I'll help because your anxiety is sparked. So this is a way that anxious people communicate, is primarily in offers of help. And you take it over. And then you, by the way, complain that he doesn't do the laundry. So when you primarily interact with giving help, right, it puts you in a one down position. It puts the other person in a one down position. You're the superior that can offer help, and they're the inferior that must receive the help. This never is bidirectional, by the way, in unhealthy relationships. In healthy relationships, help is just one of the myriad forms of love that we show each other. But in unhealthy relationships, there's one helper and one helpee, and then the dichotomy between them, the power imbalance, grows more and more pronounced over time. Instructing. Well, this is self-explanatory, but it's when you start to do something, so you're painting the deck and your wife comes down, she's like, well, I don't think that that's how you should paint it. You should really be moving the brush in this way, and then you push her off the deck. No, you don't do that, but you want to do that, right? Or like you are preparing something for the kids, you're doing something, your husband comes over and he says, oh, don't you think that you should put that over there instead of that? Wouldn't that be easier for them, or whatever? It's an instruction. It's a person that thinks that they know better than you. And so when you're an adult and you are trying to talk to your parent and they're constantly still instructing you, it seems like they still want you to be a child, and that they cannot let go of the reins and think that maybe you know better than them about anything and that you don't need their instruction. It's a way to subconsciously say, I know more than you. None of these are bad intentions, right? They're just the ways that these people learn to communicate themselves. And I want to make that very, very clear, is that why do people communicate as they do? Well, because that's how they were communicated with by their own parents, in their own relationships, in their own house, etc. And then, of course, planning. This is like the avoidant attachment favorite communication thing is planning, literal logistics. And guys come in and say this all the time, that this is the only thing that their wife does with them, an avoidant wife, is plans. All right, let's get out the calendars. Let's look at this. I need you to do this. I need you to do this. And then you remember that we're doing this. You get like 75 Google invites, and the adult child with the parent who does this, they say, hi, Ma. And then the mother's like, on Thanksgiving, I think that you should come at 10. It's like, okay, well, what kind of conversation you're going to have from there, right? That is primarily a logistical planning conversation. There's not a lot of depth. There's no depth. And it's, again, goes along with anxiety. I've said anxiety a couple of times because it is huge in these communication styles that push away the person emotionally. There's avoidance in the attachment style. And it's not an anxious attachment style, usually, with the planning especially, although it can be. Usually, though, it's an avoidant attachment style coupled with actual anxiety. So generalized anxiety that plans will not go a certain way, that we need to prepare, that everything, if you say, there's like this funny, on Instagram, there's somebody who skewers like my boomer mom, right? And so she puts on glasses and she puts her hair back, and then she's like, it's like something like trying to plan with your boomer mom. And the mom is like, so, I'm going to lunch on Monday. So, maybe I could see you Wednesday. And the adult child is like, what are you doing Tuesday? And she's like, I'm resting after Monday, and it's like there's this extensive anxious calendaring and scheduling, and this idea that you're going to be overwhelmed and need recovery time if things aren't planned exactly right. This is a style that, whether you're talking to a child or to a partner, it pushes them away. Now, what's this in contrast to? The love style, which I'm just so proud of these acronyms that I made. And my middle daughter really, she said, oh, this is great. You're going to be famous. It was very cute. And I was like, I'm not, but thank you, But anyway, so in contrast, I came up with the love style of communicating. Liking, openness, validation, and empathy. So this is like the exact opposite of the chip style. This is a way to promote warmth and closeness, whether it's the adult child and the parent, or whether it's a partner, or whether you are a parent of a child, a little child that's still in your house. So liking. Say that you like something wouldn't kill you in every interaction. Say, I like your shirt. If you can't think of anything else to say, the person's wearing a shirt, or I like your house, or I like the thing that you just made to eat, or I like what you just said, or that's funny. That's like a form of it. That's like saying, I like what you said because it's funny. That's smart, something like that. A compliment that indicates that you like something about the person is a surefire way to promote warmth and closeness and them relaxing around you and seeing you as a positive presence in their life instead of this chippy, this communicating like this cold, critical person who looks down on them. Instead, you're saying that you like things about them. I say this to guys all the time. When your wife comes downstairs in the morning and she's dressed for work, do you say something nice about her outfit? And usually they say no, because they're in couples counseling. If they had been doing that, perhaps they would not be in couples counseling. Now, or for the woman to say when the guy says some story about his work, instead of just dissociating or trying to micromanage it, why don't you say, I like how you handled that, or that's smart, or that's a good story, or whatever the case may be, something that indicates liking. What does openness means? It means that you're open to the way that the conversation goes. So many people, when they struggle with anxiety especially, have to set the agenda of the conversation, and this really destroys relationships. So your child comes in and wants to tell you, let's say, something that happened at school, but you had it in your head already that you were going to ask how they did on the test. So they're trying to tell you something at school, but you are superimposing your agenda. You are completely closed off to hearing what they want to talk about. And instead, you talk about the test, And this is super common, right? Because everybody feels stressed for time, strapped for time, stressed. And especially if you're anxious, you feel like you do not have the time to just follow, or the bandwidth to just follow and see where the conversation goes. But this is how people act with their friends, and that's why people like their friends. They just kind of see what their friend wants to talk about. If the friend comes over and is excited to say something, you don't say, actually, let's talk about something else. But people do this all the time in their family and in their intimate relationships. So, for example, a man will come over and want to tell his wife something funny that happened at work, and she just literally doesn't listen and moves the conversation to something that she has to do or that he has to do for her because she's so stressed out and tapped out. But it's like completely pushing away the person and overall eroding the relationship. Or the woman, this is like a big one, the woman wants to talk about a social thing, like something about her friend or what have you, and the man feels that in his limited time to relax, he does not want to hear this bullshit, literally thinks it's bullshit, and in fact it is her trying to connect with him about something that she finds interesting, funny, etc. And if he were open to having that conversation, she would feel like 1,000 times closer and more connected to him. All right, and what's the next? Validation, saying that somebody did a good thing. They made a good choice or they handled something well. This is almost absent in strained relationships. People are just not validating each other's choices at all. Instead, they're saying the opposite. I would have done something totally different. But in every interaction, you could do this love stuff in every single interaction. Whenever you think about it, you validate any choice that they made, any decision that they made. So a mother who struggles with getting along with her adult daughter, for example, could say to herself, I'm going to validate something in every single encounter. And what is that? That's a good choice. What did she choose? Anything, literally anything. Anything that she did. You can say it about anything in the whole world. She drives up and she parks in the parking spot. Good choice to park on the street and not have to wander around the garage, right? Good choice of this restaurant. Shows something, the Halloween costume of the kids, good choice on the Halloween costume. If you're in an intimate relationship, you could say good choice about anything. You're around the person all the time. They make a million choices in the day, a million decisions. Just say that you like one of them. You don't have to, quote, lie. And the thing about lying, before I get to the last one on empathy, the thing is sometimes people will say, oh, but I don't want to lie. If you can't find one thing that you like, if you cannot listen to what they have to say, if you cannot think any of their choices are good, why should they be in a relationship with you, right? So maybe you're the problem. Like if you can't find anything that is honest that you like, or that you could say good choice about, or that you could be kind about, then why should they even be in a relationship with you, right? So that could kind of be a reframe on that one, because that is kind of like this common rebuttal. Anyway, empathy is from their perspective. I mean, I talk about empathy all the time, but taking their perspective and really understanding something from the other person's through their eyes, getting into their shoes, saying, I get that, I understand that. Again, this is almost absent in strained or dysfunctional relationships, whether it's adult-child, whether it's romantic relationship, etc. It's transformative. I constantly talk about the transformative impact of empathy, and really just in couple sessions, for example, when we talk about each person's family of origin and the other person says like, wow, like, I get it. I get why you're so triggered by XYZ. I never knew that it was so difficult for you growing up with your dad, or whatever the case may be. That stuff really brings you closer as a couple, because finally the person's saying, I get it. So whatever story they're telling you, do you understand it? Can you intellectually understand how if you were that person, you would feel as they do? Sure, you really could. If it was a novel, if you were getting graded on this novel in English class, could you understand the protagonist? Yeah, you could. So why can't you understand your spouse or your adult child or your child or whoever? So you, for example, your wife says to you, I feel so stressed out by my boss giving me extra work on the weekend. Classic male devil's advocate move is, well, you don't really get work on the weekend a lot, so it's just one of those things that you're just going to have to do it. I work on the weekend a lot myself. And by the time he's done with that little soliloquy, she feels so distant from him, because he couldn't just say, oh yeah, I get it. That sucks. I get it. That sucks. You're stressed. So I'm going to say, that sounds stressful. You got work on the weekend. The same as you would to literally anybody. Now, if that guy's buddy said, oh, I can't actually go on the fishing trip we had scheduled because my boss gave me extra work, the guy would usually say, that sucks. But to his own wife, he won't say it. Why won't he say it to his own wife? Because in his own family of origin, nobody gave him empathy. So he doesn't know how to do it within an intimate relationship, because that's when all of your childhood stuff comes out, is in the intimate relationship. It's not just with your friends. It's not at work. For high functioning people, it's only in the intimate relationships, which are with the relationship with your spouse and with your children. That's when all this shit manifests, unfortunately. So point being, you could go back and listen to this episode more, but you do not want to do the CHIP, the criticize, help, instruct, plan. What you do want to do is the love, liking, openness, validation, and empathy. And if you just try one of these things to focus on not doing, and you replace it with doing one of them, like replace instruct with validate, your relationship will get at least 17.5% better, or your money back on this free episode. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope you found it as brilliant as my loving daughter found it when I told it to her. And I hope that it helps your relationships, right? So communication, as much as I always say, like, for example, couples counseling should not only focus on communication strategies, it should go deeper, right? But this stuff is deeper. You can do both. You can both function. You can think about, what is my communication style, but why do I have it? What does it do? Where did I learn it? And how is it making my partner feel on a deep level? And hopefully you could listen to this episode again. Wouldn't be a bad idea if it resonated with you, or to listen to it with a spouse, as long as you're not going to say, oh, you do the CHIP style, I do the love style. I'm so great. I'm so great. You're so terrible because you do the bad one and I do the good one. Instead, you should say, I'm struggling with the bad one and I want to work harder on the good one. And that would be a way to actually have a conversation that somebody's going to listen to and feel like you're a partner. All right. I will talk to everybody soon. Thanks for listening. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.